So good evening. Good evening. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome you to this evening's performance at Madhuradhwani. I've been asked to introduce the performers today, Srimati Sudarshini and S Jayachandran. It's one of the ironies of such introductions is that the performers are known to 95% of the people and the introducer is known to almost none. But we still go through the formal introduction because that's the nature of our cultural programs. Born and raised in Madurai, Srimati Sudarshini is a great-granddaughter of Kaviyogi Shuddhananda Bharatiyar, and she is learnt at Kalakshetra. She is an outstanding student. She is got the best outgoing student award both in her diploma and her post-diploma programs. She continues to study with stars like Srimati Braga Bressel and performs under the auspices and guidance of such other stars like Padma Shri Leela Sampson. Besides being a dancer, as is very common it seems among the artists, she is also a Carnatic vocal singer and learnt under Shri P.P. Ramakrishna for about 11 years. She has a master's degree in Bharatanatyam and Vaishnavism. We'll take a breath and then continue. She works as a guest faculty at the Rukmini Devi College at the Kalakshetra Foundation, and she has performed Bharatanatyam in India and abroad. No doubt when Elon Musk lands people on Mars, we'll start with performances in other planets also. I'm just impressed by the number of people who do, so many such accomplished people, and equally versatile, even more accomplished. Our speaker and illustrious demonstrator of the day, lecturer, Sri Jayachandran. I have been friends with him for several years. He started off as an electronics engineer. That's his formal training. As is usual, his interest turned to other fields, especially to Bharatanatyam. And he is now at Triple IT in Hyderabad as a member of the lecturer at the Center for Humanities. He formally started his career at Wipro. He was in Kalakshetra, which is when I knew him a long time back, and an extensive traveler, art enthusiast, speaker, researcher. I once had the pleasure of listening to his very long and elaborate talk about the Tiruvarur temple. I was absolutely overwhelmed and I asked him, how did you research and find out so much information about this temple? And he said, you walk the streets, everybody tells you 200 pieces of information. You can't just have to remember all of that and put it together. But he was being modest, of course. He's a fantastic researcher. He served as an assistant professor at Kalakshetra, trained at Meera Narayanan and Sri Gopinath, and common profile as you see with training under tutelage of Leela Sampson, Braga Bressel, Professor Chandrasekhar and Srimati Jayachandran. Now, we'll take the breath after I read out his qualifications. Diploma in Siva Siddhanta, BA History, MA Philosophy, MA Bharatanatyam, PhD Dance. And what else is going on right now? Okay. Research focuses on form neutral, style neutral, universal dance fundamentals. Okay. And as part of his research, the pedagogical tool he designed for teaching universal dance fundamentals was granted a design patent under the patent office. I have never heard of a dance patent. You can expect that from somebody who's into electronics, started off as an electronics engineer and diversified into dance. I'm sure more are to come. I say Tiruvarur, Chidambaram, etc. He's researched extensively on these temples. You can obviously, for very obvious reasons. I'll go a little personal here. Besides watching several programs, dance programs that he has performed all over the place, including here at RK, I had the pleasure of traveling with him on our site seminar programs of Tamil Heritage Trust, and he did a wonderful piece at the Tirunelveli Nellaiyappar temple. He did it was, to have the privilege of, or the pleasure of dancing in the Sabha at at one of the five sabhas, the Tamra Sabha in Tirunelveli, as you know. He was very, very excited. He really wanted to dance, and it was a very nice performance. So without much further ado, I'm looking forward to the talk today as much as all of you. So Jayachandran, the stage is yours.
I take the privilege of introducing our co-artist. Samanvita Ji Shashidharan is a student of Kalai Mamani Srimati Sugandha Kalamegam. She is a direct Bihai artist of All India Radio. She has been awarded the Yuvakala Bharati All-Rounder Award from Bharat Kalachar and is the winner and best artist of the Spirit of Youth Festival conducted by Madras Music Academy. She has a master's degree in Carnatic music from the University of Madras. She has also received the CCRT scholarship for Carnatic music. She actively performs concerts in various sabhas in both in India and abroad. Thank you, Samanvita, for collaborating. And I have to say a word about the introducer, Shri Gopu, and he is an inspiration in a difference, and good friend, very modest, very humble, but a man of very great thought, and his work is something very inspiring for all of us. His friendship is so deceiving, he makes himself so simple, but thank you for introducing me. It's a privilege to me, Gopu. Wherever you are, I didn't see you here. Thank you, Gopu. And credit goes to Professor Swaminathan also, our common pathfinder mentor for both of us when it comes to history and archaeology, and it comes to culture. Tamil Heritage Trust in its formative years. Many talks, not just as talks, as discussions we had it here. It has also, and Professor Chitra Madhavan was also part of it in the initial formative years. She used to give a lot of talks. Why am I mentioning these words? And Professor Raghuraman was also part of, he has given talks in this forum. All that has made me in the academic stream, in the training, who am I, how to present, how to talk. And these were, thank you so much for RK Convention Center, especially Ramakrishna sir, for hosting a series of lectures on history and archaeology, on literature, art, music, dance. And it has been a training ground for people like us also. So we are here. We had our rehearsals here, and we went into universities to do whatever our works are. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for inviting me here to do this talk. I had to literally say that sir asked me 8 days before about this talk, and I was so thankful for two of my collaborating artists, Sri Sudarshini and Samanvita, that they readily agreed. Especially to Sudarshini, because she had some commitment, yet she made it a point as a commitment that she would learn these pieces, because we kind of discussed and we set it in a different way. She absorbed it, and she gave me the commitment that she would do it. Thank you, Sudarshini, for it. Arul Vilayattu. This is a very interesting phrase taken from Tirumandiram of Tirumular. Generally, a talk, a discussion, a charcha on Shaiva starts with a phrase, Tiruchitrambalam. Today's Tiruchitrambalam, I wish to offer to two souls who entered that small Dharakasha in the recent past, out of which both of them belong to my alma mater, Kalakshetra. Next slide, please. Konjam light. Konjam dim pannungo. Oh, thank you. Srimati Sharada Hoffman, Srimati Pushpa Shankar, who are, they are not just alumnus of Kalakshetra, it's a very small word. they have served the institute in their own capacity in their lifetime. And today's Tiruchitrambalam is to their work, to their body of work, and to their body, Tiruchitrambalam. And to all of us, we are celebrating something very beautiful this season, music and dance, that we can afford to do that. When the world is in great turmoil, even for that peace, that this corner of the world still has that bhagyam to continue, despite all the forces. Once again for that, I call upon the Lord to say Tiruchitrambalam. Despite of many odds, you all have turned up and I have turned up myself. For that, Tiruchitrambalam. Next slide, please. Tirumandiram. There is a way of understanding text in India, Indic tradition, that text is a being by itself. It is not authored. Rather, it manifests in someone's. The idea has a career by itself. An idea of a text is a jiva. It enters someone's thought into its mind, stays there. There's a career for the ideas, and it leaves. In accordance with that tradition, to say the author of a text called Tirumandiram is Tirumular is not so suitable, but yet the text manifested through him, it is available to us through his words. Text and the word textile are very similar to each other. It comes one from the other. Textile, texture, touch, tactile, all of them are very similar to each other. In fact, the word textile has another connection here. Is in Tamil we call it as nool. That from where the word fiber and from which the fabric is woven and which the fabricator is Tirumular here. This is a very interesting Indic idea of understanding a text. It's a being by itself. So Tirumular's text, if at all, the fabric of it, is being woven by Tirumular. It is a very mystical text. Tamil is very simple. It is part of 10th Tirumurai. In fact, it has 3047 songs in it. Many of these songs are interpolations, but it was compiled in 12th century. After that, there is no further more interpolation. There were some songs that are repeated, but there are some commentators did those two songs, they have commented completely differently. Two songs, same songs, but completely two different commentary based on the context. Or you also have this idea in text reading called Sangati, of a way of understanding a text. What does it mean? Even in Vishnu Sahasranama, we have this to quote an example. There are names which repeats itself in the Sahasranama. But the way the first time it appears and the way the second time it's commented is not the same, completely different. This commentatorial tradition is a very important way. I honestly feel translation, we need a translation since early 1900s, but we have come to a phase of our studies in texts that we need commentaries now. We need to comment on it rather than translate it. I think there are very few commentaries on Tirumular's Tirumandiram. The entire text is divided into 9 tantram. That itself will give us a clue that they are not chapters, they are 9 tantras. And today's main crux of the matter lies in the 9th tantra. Within that, there's one chapter called Tirukuttu Darisanam. That is the topic for the day. In Tirukuttu Darisanam, there's a first song in which the last word, sentence, there's a kind of a phrase called Arul Vilayattu. That is the topic for discussion. Next slide, please. The first song of this entire chapter reads thus. It's in Tamil. I would read it. Yengum Tirumeni, Yengum Sivasakti, Yengum Chidambaram, Yengum Tirunattam, Yengum Sivamai Iruttalal, Yengengum, Tangum Sivan Arul, Tan Vilayatade. Sivan Arul Vilayattu. That has the crux of the matter for the topic today. Next slide. Yengum Tirumeni. In the sense, Tirumular, the word Darisanam, as it is read here, there is a probability the word Darisanam and the word Darshana, as it says in philosophical texts, it's a darshana. Tirukuttu by itself is not viewing, it's a darshana, it's a way of looking at reality by itself. There are many darshanas what Tirumular speaks. There is something called Guru Darshana, Guru Darisanam. Darshana is not looking, rather not looking. In a very different sense, it's about not looking. It's about perceiving reality, understanding the memory of reality. There is something called imagination of reality, and there's something called action of reality. These 3-4 categories, philosophically, one can be called as darshana. Every darshana, in a given sense of inquiry, would have a smallest category from which the reality, they have to argue. Every darshanakaras would argue that their basic question would be, what is this reality? The inquiry on reality. What is reality constitute of? Their answer to that question would be a structural and a functional unit of reality. This reality is a multiplication factor of that particular, whatever microgranular structure, functional structure. These people, the Tirumulars of the world, have predicted that the smallest particle would be a small hall and call it as Sitrambalam. The entire reality is a multiplication factor of that abstract small hall. Siriya Ambalam, Sitrambalam. It is not a material, it's not a material hall, it's not a atomic or molecular hall. Well, these ideas of ancient centuries later gets questioned and re-questioned, and the basic question of atom is born. What constitutes reality? Physical reality. Certain people took physical reality to be atomic in nature, but for still there are certain people who believe physical reality is not material reality. One of the earliest exponents of non-material reality is Tirumular. He says, and the mysticism of the Shaiva, of that particular sector, they feel the reality is constituted of a microgranular construction called Tiruchitrambalam. Chaturashram Hemabham Bindunashanaha. Vaishvanara Shikha Madhya Chaturashram Hemabham Bindunashanaha. Hrit Kamalantar Akashe. Within the Hrit Kamala, Antara Akashe, Vaishvanara Shikha Madhya, in the head of the Agni, glowing Agni, Chaturashram, square like, Hemabham, golden, Bindu, dot, with a cube-like structure is available. This quotation is being taught to me by one of the Vishwakarma gurus, Ashans. According to them, the reality is constituted of an abstract entity whose can be perceived in the deep of the heart's hridaya. The question of Tirumeni here is, what is this reality? Fine. But this reality, to understand the reality, there are 4 categories he declares. Tirumeni's first category, Sivasakti. That is the second category. Chidambaram, third category. Fourth is Tirunattam. Anyway, the entire talk is all about discussing these 4 categories. I know it sounds very abstract now. We'll go into it one by one. Next slide. Tirumeni. The idea of Tirumeni here is not about a body like this. As I told you, any text is also considered to be a sharira by itself. There is also a way of considering many sharira. There are ancient civilizations have an idea of considering sharira. Painting there is something called Chitra Sharira. There is something called Nada Sharira. And there is something called Nritta Sharira. And there is something called Natya Sharira. these shariras, these are very intriguing questions because they are not just streams of art, stream of education. They identified that to be a sharira which is breathing among ourselves. There was a long pending discussion on identifying the dancing body of Bharatavarsha. Sangeeta Sharira, they were able to keep their finger on it. Sangeeta by itself is not so easy. It's like marrying oil and water. It is one of the genius invention of this particular part of the world. Because Geetam, Vadyam, Tata Nrityam, Trayam, Sangeetam Uchyate, most of us understand this. For a singer, for a vocalist, Geeta, Vadyakaras are not direct linked to each other. For instrumentalist, music, vocal music and word music, verbose music is a disturbance. It's not a great thing to each other because they are in their own world. When I use the word disturbance, I don't use it in a derogatory sense. They are in another bubble. And for dancers, and for there's something called a nrittakaras, for them, rhythm becomes something fundamental. But to marry melody into dance was not an easy joke. Certain geniuses identified the point of fusion. How to marry melody into dancing movement. How to marry instrument to be part of it. This marriage is called Sangeeta. And that is a grand sharira by itself. Nritta sharira, still people were dabbling with it. They were not able to keep their finger on it. People were predicting it. There is an existence of a Nritta sharira. And they were attributing it to Lord Shiva, which is fine. Many of them, and some of them were attributing it to every other god. There was no god which has not had a Nritta Sharira in Indic civilization. This discussion of identifying the dancing body, and people in the modern India, I should say independent era, they were very anxiously wanting to rediscover this body. Because for them, if at all to bring back the spine of an Indian in post-independent era, how do you bring back the spine of an Indian? People argued science and technology would help. But there are other modernists who felt that dance and music would help. Art would help. Katha would help. Kavya would help. This is going to resurrect the spine of the lost Indian. And many of them pointed that we have to dance it. Dance was in the discussion of modern Indians, especially we can see from the writings of Bengal revolutionists, modernists, some of the revolutionists of Maharashtra. They were also pointing at an idea of dance. It has to be celebrated through dance. They just never not just mentioned about music. They also were mentioning about dance. There is an idea of a country which they were trying to identify, which is dancing back. In that era, in modernist time period, one thinker, not just a scholar, he's a thinker by himself. His roots are from Ceylon and a partial root from West. Dr. Ananda Kumaraswamy. He identifies and writes a landmark article and he pins that Nritta Sharira as that is dance of Shiva. It turned the history of thinking. He identified it, though we see many words as cosmic dance and many things in it, he gave a complete plan in that article and say how to identify this abstract into something physical and how certain people in certain part of India have already identified it and already been transformed into a bronze sculpture or stone sculpture, and how it is, the Vishwakarmas are very familiar with this Nritta Sharira, which is not, they themselves are not dancers, but they could create dancing sculptures. What is this idea? So they were not completely practicing musicians, but they create music. They could create musical entities. For this, they wanted a template, so they created this idea of Tirumeni, this abstract Tirumeni they agreed upon. Let us venture into it. It's called the corpus. It's the body in which these discussions are happening. This country is a is a body by itself. A pradesha is a body by itself. A house is a body by itself. A fabric is a body by itself. A jewel is a body by itself. A poem is a body by itself. This idea of Sharira and identifying it with Tirumular's Tirumeni is an abstraction which we have to shift ourselves from a comfortable zone. From there, he takes off into 5 types of dances. Sitparanjodi Sivananda Kuttani, Sorpadamam and the Sundara Kuttani, Purpadi Kuttani, Pontillai Kuttani, Arpuda Kuttani, Yararivare. Next slide, please. From Sivananda Kuttu, Sundara Kuttu, Purpadi Kuttu, Pontillai Kuttu and Arpuda Kuttu. Sivananda Kuttu, there Tirumular mentions some seeds of problems and seeds of challenges in identifying this higher Sharira. In Sundara Kuttu, he proposes an idea of auchitya, uchita, to be a method to identify. There is a ratio and proportion to identify and get out of it. Third, in Purpadi Kuttu, there are sprouting of challenges, newer challenges to the body and the mind appears when you apply those auchityas. Pontillai Kuttu, they are resolved through a great debate and problems. There are a lot of debates in the poetry. Arpuda Kuttu is the fruit. Arpuda Kuttu is the fruit or a kind of a final resolution they arrive upon. Next slide. Chitparanjodi Sivananda Kuttane. It's like a radiant lotus on the pond. It's very metaphorical here. From the quagmire of life, something is born. From something which is very disturbing, a lotus is born. This is what the first challenge, what Tirumular gives in the poetry by itself. From the heart, there is a lotus. From the entire sagging body, there's a mortal corporeal body. There's a lotus which blooms, from which something effervescent is going to come out. Next slide. These are the gestures being used to describe this poetry through dance, which Sudarshini would demonstrate to us. From the heart, from the inner hearts of that quietness, that immaculate quietness. Next slide, please. Inside of it lies the fragrance. That is where it has to be manifested. So the problem, the challenge is lying within. Yeah. Next slide. Next, as the chit is born, he says it gets on to the mind, and a light is born from which you have to identify what the Chitparanjoti is all about. Please. From the mind of the Chit, it is born, the light is born, and it is taken. From there, the light is borrowed to take the Harati of the entity what they are taking. They are searching for. Yeah. Sivananda Kuttu. It's about offering the inner light to the out. Next, please. Sorpadamam and the Sundara Kuttane. When you say Sol, the word Sol or the word is a confluence of dissonance. There's something called which is dissonant from which word is born, not from coming together. Something has to come together and separate by itself, separate to itself, from itself. But it takes a feat. It divides the space. Padam, the word Padam also means division. Is to divide. Sor Padam. There's a division in that space, a sonic space. And the Sundara Kuttane. Sundara Kutta, as I mentioned, it's the scale of Auchitya. Sundara here they use as a ratio and how does it divide? What are the ratios and proportion which division happens? So that word is born, not cacophony is born out of it. What makes sound, what doesn't make sound. This distinction is Sundara Kutta. I mean, from the existing reality, some parameters of Auchitya is applied to it, from which something springs out. Something sensible springs out. That's Sundara Kutta. Next. Sol and Padam. Next slide. Sundara Kuttan. The beauty of this particular entity gets rolled and more or less folded in his matted lock. Matted lock, from there is going to be a sprouting of Ganga from which entire Jiva has to come out. The scale of Auchitya, the scale of life, everything is coming out from that. It's a rounded matted lock. From within, it is rolled and held high in the head. Next slide, please. Swarpadamam and the Sundara Kutane, where everything is tied together. Now, this Auchityas, whatever we're speaking about, Sundara Kutta, these Auchityas are collected together and tied in a given order. That's how texts are compiled, one after the other, in an order. Next slide. Now, this collection of text or collection of ideas in a given ratio is treated with two Hamsapaksha Hastas as if they are birds, two wings of the bird. Without one, the other cannot survive. So there is a dependency of each other. Surpadam. Next slide. Sundara Kutan. That Kutan who is Sundara, but based on the idea of Sundara, he is sustained. That's his base on which he is established. Sundara Kutan. Next slide. Porpadi Kutan, where there is a collection of something which is very, it is not problem, they are challenges. One has to cross to understand. We have applied the parameters of Auchitya, we have got something, but still it mounts itself into something very, very huge. Porpadi, and it takes a twirl within itself. There is a churning within that particular. Next slide, please. The gold, it takes a churn, and that is called Porpadi. Porpadi Kutan. And he is the lord of the Pon, Porpadi. Next slide. Porpadi Kutan. Where here the word gold is very interpretable. The word in Tirumula's text, every word becomes interpretable because he himself gives another meaning for the word gold. Gold, he says, it is like, gold is another word he uses for breath. Breath of a typical type is called gold. Another type is called silver. And another type is called, it's not type, there's a pattern. It's a pattern. One pattern is called gold, another pattern is called silver, another pattern is called bronze. There are codes he uses, especially in the chapter called of pranayama. He uses these words very clearly. So when you say Porpadi, it can be easily translated as golden place or a house. Now, but that comes out of, in another poem, he says, there is one trajectory, one golden breath is taking, another trajectory, another opposite helix, the golden other trajectory is taken, and they meet. They don't just touch each other, they cross each other. There is a cross of each other. That is in which one energy contributes in one helix, another energy contributes in another helix. So there is a cross of energy, golden energies, while one is supposed to be the masculine energy, another is supposed to be the feminine energy of helix. That's Porpadi Kut. Pontillai Kut. Pontillai, he once again describes that Pontillai, the word Tillai here is once again interpretable here. As I told, Pon is supposed to do with a breath. Tillai here is not necessarily a geographical location of a Chidambaram or something. It is an idea, he says, that it is like a collection of golden rays, in which a collection, he also says about a pond of golden lotuses, and he also mentions about golden doors. So, these ideas are taken as Pontillai as a golden edged lotus, petals, lotus with petals, and Pontillai with 3 golden doors. Next slide, please. Pontillai first as the rays of gold, next as the golden lotus, next as that which opens 3 doors of gold. Pontillai Kutan. Next slide, please. Kutan. Now that's where it becomes interesting. They are like golden cubes. These ideas are like golden cubes. They are into a matrix. Now, these are formations. These formations in a given type gives information. In hyphen formation gives information. Same entities realigned in a different way, there's another formation there, there's another information from the same corpus. In fact, Tirumular says the number of golden cubes are finite, but they are huge in number. It cannot be infinite because reality is mitha. It has to die. And the number of breath of a given human being is finite. The number of cells, howsoever high the number is, it is finite. The number of hairs in a body, howsoever uncountable, it is finite. The number of beings so far lived on the earth, howsoever big, we may not be able to know what the number is, but it is finite. Infinite, if at all there's an idea called infinity, there could only one place it can live. That is mind. In physically, only its human inability to identify finite, we shove it into the realm of infinite. To him, he says, the Tiruchitrambalam, as I call the microgranules, they arrange itself to form a kuttu. Every kuttu is one matrix. Another formation is another matrix, is another kuttu. So they are in formation from the same matrix. And there's another interesting thing he gives. Everything was started in the same juncture of time. There's something called time zero. Everything started and ends same. If at all there is an end. There is no clear end to it. It is anadi. If at all there was started, all started same. So that's why it is arranged in a proper matrix, decipherable matrix. Though I made it very small, cubish, and to arrange in a square, they are decipherable matrix in a given environment. That is kuttu. Next. That man who's living there, we made the small cube here, and this is Chaturanjali, which is offered to something which is engulfed within. Chaturanjali is another hasta used in rituals. Next. Arpuda kuttane yararivare. Next slide. This Arpuda kuttu is the fruit of all this. Finally, it blows out into fruit or into a flower. Flowers are bloomed in different parts of the body. There are 3 different levels it is shown. Arpuda kuttu. Arpuda kuttu is the idea of final. The idea of wonderment, here the idea of Arpuda need not be translated into wonder or wonderment. It's the idea of understanding something. You have realm from the unknown, you have got into the realm of known. This he calls it as kuttu. In a different way, kuttu is also a kind of a tand, a transit from the known to the unknown, from the measured to the immeasured, from one existence to the other existence. It's called a crossover. That's what he calls as kuttu. Arpuda kuttu is you got into that realm. Arpuda kuttu. Next slide. Yar, arivare. Aridal is deep gazing. Deep gazing is through Aridal. Aridal is not just intellectual. Deep gazing is through the eyes. Aridal is through the eyes. I would request Sudarshini to demonstrate. Sirparanjodi Sivananda Kuttani, which is the first. Swarpadamam and the Sundara Kuttani. Purpadi Kuttani, Pontillai Kuttani, Arpuda Kuttani, Yararivare.
Sirparan சிற்பரஞ்சோதி சிவானந்தம் கூத்தனை கூத்தனை சொற்பதமாம் சொற்பதமாம் அந்த சுந்தர கூத்தனை சுந்தர கூத்தனை சொற்பதமாம் 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 அந்த சுந்தர கூத்தனை பொற்பதி கூத்தனை பொற்பதி கூத்தனை பொன்தில்லை கூத்தனை பொன்தில்லை பொன்தில்லை கூத்தனை அற்புத கூத்தனை அற்புத கூத்தனை அற்புத கூத்தனை அற்புத கூத்தனை யார் அறிவாரே யார் அறிவாரே
These are two major outcomes of this discussion. We've summarized it that this is in search of another Sharira, Nritta Sharira, the Tirumeni idea. Khud se khudai. It's a very Sufi quotation. As in when we keep moving and moving, body becomes transparent. Body in the sense not just the physical body, anything which keeps moving and moving, it has to become transparent. That is khud se khudai. So to make something transparent so something deep can be revealed out of it. The first phase is over, comes to the second phase now. Now we have made the body move around in the idea of Tirumeni, and the next is revealed. Next slide, please. Shiva Sakti. Four categories were Tirumeni, Shiva Sakti, Chidambaram and Tirunattam. Now we are coming to the second category, Shiva Sakti. There is a same song, there's another song. Manika Kootanai, Vantillai Kootanai, Punutra Mandrul Purisadai Kootanai, Senutra Chodi Sivananda Kootanai, Anippan Kootanai, Yaru Raipare. Manika is a very important, Manika can be translated as gem. But there is something interesting about gem is that it is believed that this reality is like an Indrajal. That every speck of reality reflects every other speck of reality. The information of the entire universe is available within one speck. It's called this instance of time, this particular moment, every speck reflects every other speck. That's what Tirumala's proposition is. You introspect one Tiruchitrambalam, that gives you information about all. And that comes out of, Tirumala gives an idea of counter reflection. There is a Manikam which is hidden down, and there's a Manikam which is glowing up. It's called like Bimba Pratibimba, idea of Bimba and Pratibimba. Bimba is an image, Pratibimba is counter image. We worship the Pratibimba, not the Bimba. We worship there is something called Ma. Ma is measure. Pratima is counter measure. The icons what we worship in the temple is Pratima, Pratibimba. It's called Pratibimba Vada. Here, Tirumala says, there is a Manikya which is hidden within, but its counter reflection is shown outside visibly. And that comes out of deep churning, and within that deep churning, certain poison is, something very intense comes out. There is an inability to handle that intensity. That is what we call as Manika. I mean, interestingly, poison is not something, Visha is not about poison. Visha is about inability for a body to handle something very, very intense. And that, an entity consumes it and holds it in the thread, in the throat. That he calls Manika Kut. One Tillai Kut. Can we just go to the slide? Manika Kut. Next slide. There is a gem which is inside, and there's a gem which is externally outside, and that grows and glows in the throat. Next slide. And that is being held in the throat, drank as the Visha, and he held as a glowing one. Yeah. One Tillai Kut. This Tillai, what he says, is about growing within it. There's a lot of forest which he speaks about layers of forest which is growing within. One Tillai is a forest which he says it goes from down to up and it surrounds you. He gives few examples to it. Yeah, next slide. From the down, the forest grows up and it circumambulates around you as an energy circuit. Next slide. There is a feminine energy hidden in the forest and there's a masculine energy of the forest. They reside one on top of the other. And that becomes the Tillai, the forest hidden within. Next slide. Punutra Mandra. This has to be conserved within a golden energy circuit. Well, once again, we understood the word gold as a kind of a breath. He speaks about controlling the entire energy into a golden circuit. Punutra Mandra. Mandra is like a hall, but this hall is very metaphorical hall. Yeah. The golden sky, as we said, the golden coverage. Yeah. Next. It has grown into layers of gold. There's a hall of gold where the energy is crossed. There's a hall on top of it. One is entering into that hall. Punutra Mandrul. Punutra Mandrul. Yes, please. That hall is also manifested as a human body. There is a beautiful glowing human body. That body is not the physical body he is speaking. There's a ruler of that golden body who's ruling the roost. Punutra Mandrul. Next slide. Purisade Kutan. There is a feminine and a masculine strand of energy coming out as a jata. And one sits on top of the other very comfortably. Next slide. Yeah. Next. And in which, on the seat of the feminine, the masculine hosts itself. And it's called the Madi. It hosts itself, not just sitting, hosting. It's a koot, he says. Purisade kootane. Next. Senutta chodi Sivananda kootane. It is an engulfed atmosphere of fire and energy. When someone wants to encirculate themselves into that mandala. Next. This is the power, that fire mandala. And from there is a Jyoti revealed. Senutta Jyoti. Next slide. That fire is held close to himself as a yogi, and that one revels on the heat of it. Sivananda Kutan. Anipon Kutan. He speaks about not a horizontal world, but a vertical world, infinitely long to the conception of mortals, but it's finite. So, a long pole of gold, stambha, Anipon Kutan. Yeah, next slide. That is gold, which grows and radiates. It's like radiates. He also mentions about sun to be equal to a peacock. There are areas he uses sun as equivalent. When you want to use the word peacock, it refers to sun to peacock. There's a kind of a mnemonic. And there is a way of using that in Siddhartha songs also. Sun is also referred to that practice of sadhana where eyes vertically go high and the eyelids open by itself because of deep sadhana. That is called mail. And that time there is some sound which comes out through the throat. That's called kuil. So, Vanatin mele mayiladakkandein mayil kuilachudadi. Vallalar says about it. So, there is a mayil and there is a kuil. Mayilattam kandein, kuilattam kandein. These are phrases Siddhartha will use in their songs. There is an entire chapter called Sunya Sambhashane in Tirumula's Tirumandiram, where every word in that poetry is a code word. Every word is a code word. So when you say Anipon Kutan, he speaks about that vertical universe. We are not very, because even in the same Tirukkuta Darisanam, he speaks about Andam. Bhutandam, Vedandam, Bhogandam, Yogandam, Mudandam, Muttandam, Degandam, Dagandam, Vedandam, Aingarumattandam, Tatparatti Yagandama, Brahmandat Enbave. Mudipar. Andas, there are so many andas and he gives an explanation for it. What is it, several andas? How does it survive? How does one anda exist in contrast with the other? So it's not just our imagination of a spherical universe. There are different dimensions in which universes are discussed. This is a vertical universe. Anipon Kutan. Please. Yar Uraipare. This Uraipare is a very interesting hasta. Nasika Bhushana hasta. Like holding a pin on the nose. Why is it so? This I kind of understood from the Andhra temple traditional Devadasi tradition, that one of their ways of showing deep thinking, when they say someone is deeply thinking, they had a very sophisticated way of thinking that their nose pin is raising up and down. Deep in thought, the way to show an abhinaya for some of them, they would put their hand tamrachuda on their nose. It looks very stylistic, very beautiful, very pretty, but very deep. Because they say that when everything stops in the body and deeply consumed by thought, perhaps the only thing moving in the body is the nostril. There could be a Nayika who is deeply consumed by the viraha or by anything or by deep contemplation or anyone. But Nasika Bhushana, that to show it through the rays of the nose pin and down, to me, a very sensitive idea of deep thinking. When it says Yar Uraipare, it's about deep contemplative thought. Who would say that? Saying is not about through words, but saying it's first through thought, to oneself first. Then it is shared. And one of the most sensitive way of saying, in my opinion, is to hold it with an Nasika Bhushana, that deep in contemplation. I would request Sudarshini to demonstrate it.
வந்தில்லை கூத்தனை வந்தில்லை கூத்தனை பூனுற்ற மன்றுள் பூனுற்ற மன்றுள் பூரிசடை கூத்தனை பூரிசடை கூத்தனை சேனுற்ற சோதில் சிவானந்த கூத்தனை ஆணிப்புண் கூத்தனை ஆணிப்புண் கூத்தனை ஆணிப்புண் கூத்தனை யார் உரைப்பாரே யார் உரைப்பாரே யார் உரைப்பாரே
Just now we understood in this idea called Shiva Shakti through the Tiruchandram discussion, the Padartha of the entire reality is Tiruchitrambalam, which is there. Shiva Shakti is the punctuator of reality, and this energy corpus is coming together to punctuate reality into different levels, give us a vertical reality. Andangal Yerinukku Appurathu Appal. Of all the 7 cosmos is vertically arranged above that. There's a vertical cosmos he is speaking. Andangal Yerinukku Appurathu Appal Undu Endra Shakti Sadasivathu Uchimel Kandam Kariyan Karunai Tiruvuru Kondu Angu Umaigana Kuthu Ugandane. They are speaking about some verticality of reality in which it's crossing some 7 realms. And there is a realm in which for one energy to witness the other energy, one is dancing for the other. It's a very interesting confluence of Shiva Shakti Tirumula speaks about. Next, we'd come to Tirunattam, then we'll go to Chidambaram for some practical reasons. Vedangalada. Atam. Adudal is a very interesting idea because the word atam is a very important word because atam is a common term used for games, for sports, for martial arts, for dance, for theatre, for cinema. Atam is a common term used in Tamil, Malayalam, Telugu and Kannada. In Tamil, we use that as a prefix for many verbs like Urayadal, Soodadal, Vaadadal, Neeradal, Poradal. In Malayalam, There is a very similar context which adal, atam has been used as a suffix for many verbs. Telugu, obviously, judata, porata, vadata, nirata, exists. In Kannada also, Bombay ata. Ata, atam is more or less used as a universal verb, not just to some activity. More or less used as a universal verb for most of the words used in this part of the country. It is a solution for finding a universal verb. This thinkers, people of the world, have always been contemplating what is that one constituting universal verb, which is the constituting entity for all other verbs. Can there be one universal verb? This has been a philosophical question across thinkers. Greek thinkers have their own pre-Socratic thinkers, post-Socratic thinkers. They have their own solutions, they have their own propositions for it. In Indic tradition, there is a discussion on asti, vidyate and bhavati. Bhavati is supposed to be the universal verb. Asti, vidyate and bhavati. They settled on bhavati. Bhava is. Idea of is happening, this moment is. Bhava Sagara is an ocean of is, existential reality, a quagmire web of is. Now, having said that, in southern part of India, atam is the universal verb. And if at all there is a lord for the universal verb of everything, it could be an Adal Vallan. He is none other than Nataraja. Now, this particular part of poetry, where there are many poetries in Tirumandiram of Tirukuttu Darisanam, he ends with Ada. Adi Paranada, Angai Kanalada, Vodum Sadayada, Unmattam Utrada, Padi Madiyada, Parandam Midada, Nadamod Adinan, Nadanta Nattame, Tattuvamada, Sadasivam Tanada, Chittamumada, Sivasakti Tanada, Vaita Saramada, Marayada, Attanum Adinan, Ananda Kutte. Sivamada Saktiyumada, Jagatil Avamada, Adada Ambaramada, Navamana Tattvam Nadantamada, Sivanadum Vedanta Siddhanta Tulle, Anandi Adi Pin Navakuttadi, Kanandi Adi, Karatil Daritadi, Muna Chudimuniyul Adi, Mudivilla, Jnanatul Adi Muditan Yannadane. We are going to take a verse called Vedangalada, Migu Agamamada, Gidangalada, Kilarandam Yerada, Budangal Ada, Buvanam Murudum Ada, Nadam Kondadinan, Nyan Ananda Kutte. That's we are going to demonstrate. Veda, when we say Veda, it is not just about Chaturveda. The word Veda comes from deep idea of gazing. That has been visible. Veda first was Drishtantara to certain rishis. They gave it a rik to it. First it was revealed to them visually. So Vedam means some kind of a sight, a looking, a deep gaze. That is Veda. Vedangal Ada. As Veda, it entwined itself and danced. It high above their consciousness, it danced to make a material. Out of it, that body was created. It has to breathe. That breath is called agama. They created a body, it has to breathe. Now it has to gamana, agamangal, ada. Breath here symbolized with Hamsasya Hasta, that it goes up and down. There is a way to put it out, up and down, and also with Shikara. And it rocks, top and Vedangalada, Agamamada. Gitangalada. Gita, as can we just go to the slides? Yeah, next slide, please. Vedangalada. Yeah, the sight of it, and Vedas, looking straight into something, very deep gazing is Veda. Vedangal, Ada, yeah, Ada, as if they are the eyesight, which is getting deep, they connect to this in the consciousness and they oscillate to create Vedangal, Ada, Migu, the great. Next, Agama. Agama is the breath ladder in which this thought is hanging on. Agama is a breath ladder. Gamana, but it is called Agasappadi. So, yeah. Tirumular uses this term. Agamam. It's the breath. It is also intertwined breath. Breath which is intertwined. It's like a chain. Sangati of breath. Agama. Next. It goes forward but comes down as a pillar. Goes up, comes down as a solidified pillar. Breath in terms of Agama. These are, Agama as a text is very different, but Agama, the way he uses, is very different. This is not Shaiva Agama as Kamika Yoga Jaya Chintam Karanam Ajitam Deepta Agama. So that's not the Agama he is using. Yeah. Next. Ada, it oscillates. Next. Geetangal. For him, the song is from, this is the lotus and the inner tongue is the bee. And we know the throat, that particular pranayama is called Brahmari. When closed mouth, that's the first song. That's called Brahmar Geet. Brahmar Ka Geet. That's not an audible sound. The audible range of the Brahmar is very later. There is an intent to do that. That itself, Tirumular in his pranayama chapter calls it as a Gita. The bee is trying to sing. That itself is a song. So here, there is an intent of thousands and crores of spelt out verses here. Next slide, please. Geetangal, from the lips it comes, but it creates a line of thought by itself. Next slide. Many of them, innumerable of them. Geetangal, Ada. Next. They are savored to one's own ears like a nectar. Next. Kilar Andam Yerada. The 7 vertical cosmos. Once again, this verticality is a very interesting idea which most of us feel it very difficult even to intuit. For us, it's a very physical reality is all about goal. The verticality, in what sense it's vertical, why there is a top layers of 7 up and 7 down. This is a very difficult thing conceptually even to intuit at times. Perhaps we are comfortable with spherical worlds and we often think that it's a cross-section of concentric spheres. Not necessarily. They are very clear about Kilarandam Yer is from there vertically up and down. Kilarandam Yerada. Next. Next. That dance is also about, they say, because there's a very interesting thing he says, human body it's also a reflection of light. He used the word pada. Pada in technical term also means a pillar. The word pillar means pada. So when say human body is a pada, but where there's a dance happening there, the word kunchita pada is a bent pillar. He wants us to understand that to be a beam of light which is never bends, but just bent for a purpose. Vision of that light as a bent pillar, beam of light, is kunchita pada. Then that happened in Chidambaram as a vision. That bend, they say it is in between the upper body and the lower body, there is a bend. And that is manifest in the human body as that bend. That is where the light bends. Light starts to bend from that point, below the navel. But so when you say Yerada, on the 7, this is called 7 world up and 7 world down. Navel up, 7 world, navel down, 7 world. So it is not so uchita in certain Abhinaya, many of the Abhinaya traditions to hold gestures below the waist for many. It is all that above the waist is mostly used. For them, this is heaven, this is all Bhu Bhuvaswa 7. This vertical body alignment, vertical beam of light with 7 ear and dancing above 7 is above the navel, is where many idioms of dance movements has also started. Yerada, next. Bhutangalada. Bhutam is The Panchabhutas, there is a gesture the Andhra traditional dancers use to do Panchabhuta. They first bang the earth, from the sound the bhutas are born. From some bang, to show that bang, they hit the earth, like with Ardhachandra, and they take it around and they show 5. For them, that is Panchabhuta. There is a Panchabhuta Mandala also, Tirumular speaks, that this Bhudangal it's a very deep discussion when you say Bhudangalada. But we'll just stop it here to say that there's encircled dancing there. Bhudangalada. Next. Yeah, Bhudangalada. That Atam is, for them, is more like alignment. It's coming together. It transposes its position itself and forming another plane. Next slide. And then he says a serpentine energy is born, descends down, and it is offered as an energy. Serpent is a used term for a web of energies here. So it is offered with a Sarpanjali. Sarpasesha Hasta offered with 2 Hasta together is called Sarpanjali. As it's descending down, it's offered as an Anjali. Bhuvanam Urudada. Bhuvanam is like a canopy, an umbrella. It's an assumed canopy. It's a kind of a fictitious canopy. Bhuvana. Bhuvanam, because the word Bhuvana is not the world. Tirumur also speaks Bhuvanam to be imagined relationships. That's called Bhuvana. As if you imagine yourself to be safe somewhere. That's called Bhuvana. Bhuvana Murudada. Next. There is a thing which we construct all around ourselves. Bhuvanam Murudum Ada. Yeah. Yeah. We submit ourselves to that Bhuvana. Nadam Kondadinan. With the primeval sound, he danced. Next. Nada is a confluence of 2 entities. Na and Da. Nakara and Dakara. Nada, it splits itself into sound. But in the primeval level manifestation, it is not, there is no sound there. It manifests as sound. In the sonic world, it is manifest as sound. In the optical world, Nada manifests as colors. So, Nadam, next slide. Kondu Adinan, the peacock feather one, once again. A lot of colors. Nadam Kondu Adinan. Next slide. Jnanananda Kute. Next slide. From the peacock turns out to be inner Gyan. It has to turn inside to create an inner Gyan. And that is offered. A lotus is born from there. It is offered as an Anjali. Yep. Previous slide. Yep. Yeah. I request Sudarshini to demonstrate this song.
வேதங்கள் ஆட மிகு ஆகமம் 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 ஆட கீதங்கள் கீதங்கள் கிளரண்டம் ஏழாட பூதங்கள் ஆட 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 புவனம் முழுதாட புவனம் முழுதாட நாதம் கொண்டாடினான் நாதம் கொண்டாடினான் நாதம் கொண்டாடினான் ஞானானந்த கூத்தே ஞானானந்த கூத்தே.
As a conclusive point, we also understand Tirukuttu is a darshana. There's an idea of atom in it, and the seed to fruition. As it grows, it gets resolved. Next slide, please. The locus, Chidambaram. It's a very important song. Manuda Rakai. Akai means body. Manuda Rakai, the human body. Vadivu Sivalingam. Manuda Rakai Vadivu Chidambaram. Manuda Rakai Vadivu Sadasivam. Manuda Rakai Vadivu Tirukutte. So this is, when you say human body here, once again they are saying the interiors of the body. To them, body is not one. There are 5 bodies. Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira, Ati Karana Sharira, Rahasya Sharira. There are many other people who divide into 7 bodies. There are people who divide into 9 bodies. These are philosophical debates. But for them, when they say Akai or Yakai, it is not one. It's a very modern reading that body is one. It's a very physical body. But these bodies and most of the ancient thinkers thought that any knowledge enterprise happens only in the Sukshma Sharira. Sthula Sharira cannot acquire knowledge. Any knowledge acquisition is beyond the Sthula. So all, when they say Manuda Rakai, they refer to layers and layers of body. Manuda Rakai Vadiva Sivalingam. Manuda Rakai, the Vadiva also means a word. Vadiva is not just a form, it also means beauty. The beauty of Manuda Rakai is Shivalingam. Here the word beauty is once again interpretable. It is not the beauty of a rose or a flower, or it's not. That which breaks all the pettiness and coarseness in arguments is called beauty. I mean, friction, that reduces friction is called beauty. It's a very interesting definition. Beauty is that one creates harmony. Beauty is a causal reason for harmony. Vadivu here is that causal reason. They're thinking about some causal reason for the Manuda Rakai, human body. Then that is Shivalinga. They are identifying some 4 causal agents. Chidambaram, and that is Tirukuttu. That is a causal agent, and that leads to Tirukuttu. Next slide. Yeah, this. Next slide. Manuda Rakai, the first body, layer of body. Manuda Rakai. Next slide. Vadivu Sivalingam. It's very straightforward. We did. Yeah. Next slide. Manuda Rakai. Next. Kattuvadu lingam. Linga is a term used that which is combined together. Kattuvadu lingam, vettuvadu sakkaram. Patinathar says this. So you have to tie energies together. That tying, that bandhana, there is a bandhana there. That is linga bandham. There is a tying, and the tying is offered. Shivalingam. Next. Manudarakai, the second body, layer of the body. Vadivu. Next slide. Chidambaram. From the chit, there is some grows and creates a space for itself. Chidambaram. Yep. Manudarake, the third layer of the body. Vadivu. Yes. Sadashiva. There is energy which grows out of the center. There is an inward energy which drips down, and that is offered as Amuri Dharana, as the Amrita Varshini to the Linga itself. Sadashiva. Yeah. Next. Now, after offering it, as in every offering happens, it binds that. It gets closer, you get closer and closer. There's a binding happens. There's a tying and binding happens. Yeah, Sadashiva. Next. Manudarakai Vadiva Tirukute. Manudarakai Vadiva Tirukute. In which this is hold it. That's the entire crux of the matter we have been discussing. Tirukute is the crux in which everything is revolving around. It's the basic matrix. Yep. Yep, previous slide. Yeah. I request Sudarshini to demonstrate it.
Manudarakai Vadivu Shivalingam Manudarakai Vadivu Shivalingam Manudarakai Vadivu Chidambaram Manudarakai Vadivu Sadashivam Manudarakai Vadivu Sadashivam Manudarakai Vadivu Tirukute Tirukute Tirukute
Next slide. Now, this is a kind of we made a summum bonum of the entire material. We discussed about Tirumeni, we discussed about Siva Sakti, we discussed about Chidambaram, we discussed about Tirunattam. Putting down the first song we started, Yengum Tirumeni, Yengum Siva Sakti, Yengum Chidambaram, Yengum Tirunattam, Yengum Sivamai Iruthalal, Yengengum Thangum Sivan Arul Tan Vilayattu. I would do Abhinaya for this composition.
இங்கும் திருமேனி இங்கும் திருமேனி திருமேனி எங்கும் திருமேனி 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 எங்கும் திருமேனி 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 எங்கும் திருமேனி எங்கும் 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 திருமேனி 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 எங்கும் திருமேனி எங்கும் எங்கும் திருமேனி எங்கும் திருமேனி 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 எங்கும் எங்கும் திருமேனி திருமேனி எங்கும் எங்கும் திருமேனி எங்கும் எங்கும் திருமேனி எங்கும் திருமேனி எங்கும் திருமேனி எங்கும் திருமேனி எங்கும் திருமேனி திருமேனி எங்கும் திருமேனி 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 எங்கும் திருமேனி 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 எங்கும் சிவசக்தி எங்கும் சிவசக்தி எங்கும் சிவசக்தி எங்கும் சிவசக்தி 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 எங்கும் சிதம்பரம் 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 எங்கும் எங்கும் சிதம்பரம் எங்கும் சிதம்பரம் எங்கும் சிதம்பரம் எங்கும் சிதம்பரம் 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 எங்கும் திருநட்டம் 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 எங்கும் திருநட்டம் எங்கும் திருநட்டம் திருநட்டம் எங்கும் எங்கும் திருநட்டம் எங்கும் திருநட்டம் 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 எங்கும் திருநட்டம் திருநட்டம் எங்கும் 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 திருநட்டம் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கும் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கும் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கெங்கும் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கும் 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 சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கும் சிவமாய் சிவமாய் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கும் எங்கும் சிவமாய் சிவமாய் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலாய் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கும் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் சிவமாய் இருத்தலால் எங்கெங்கும் 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 தங்கும் சிவனருள் தங்கும் சிவனருள் 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 தாங்கும் சிவனருள் தாங்கும் சிவனருள் தாங்கும் 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 சிவனருள் தாங்கும் சிவனருள் தாங்கும் சிவனருள் தாங்கும் சிவனருள் தாங்கும் சிவனருள் தன் விளையாட்டதே தன் விளையாட்டதே தன் விளையாட்டதே 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 தான் விளையாட்டதே தன் விளையாட்டதே 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 ஏ ஏ விளையாட்டதே 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 ஏ ஏ
we understand that Tirukuttu Darisanam is not just about a physical dancing, what Tirumural mentions. It's of realms and realms of complex, abstract understandings, where every word and every term takes a different dimension in its own context. That's why Tirumula studies becomes a separate paradigm by itself, an academic paradigm, if one wishes to call. But mostly it was a sadhana paradigm at one particular level. He is speaking about the search of the universal verb, the search of Tiruchitrambalam as an arche, a fundamental reality of life. Kuthu as ascension of thought and knowledge. Kuthu, Tandava has always been the search of this part of the country. Tandava perhaps is a societal code of certain set of people who have been always searching to make the body transparent. Tandava is a code of the societal existence for whom it's not just about looking for sukha and shunning dukkha that matters. It keeps happening again and again. But the Kuthu is about in search of the higher realms, and as he says, Anbu, Arivu and Arul are same, Tirumular. So in search of that. Can I have the next slide, please? It is demonstration by Sri Sudarshini. Thank you so much, Sudarshini, for the demonstration. Vocal, someone with us, Sudarshini. PPT preparation, photography and illustration, J. Satish Kumar. Production support, Nivedita Satish. Text I used was typed by G. Aravindan. And light and sound by RK Convention Center. Thank you so much for this opportunity, sir. And thank you, sir. Yes. Yes.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். நம்முடைய தமிழ் மரபில் தோத்திர நூல்கள்னு ஒரு பட்டியலை கொடுத்தார்கள், சாத்திர நூல்கள்னு ஒரு பட்டியலை கொடுத்தார்கள். தோத்திர நூல்கள் 12 திருமுறை. நான் பெரிதும் வருந்துதல் என்னவென்றால் திருமுறையை தோத்திர நூல்களுள் வைத்திருக்கக்கூடாது. பின்னர் வந்த சாத்திர நூல்கள் 14ம் திருமூலத்தை முதன்மை நூலாக எடுத்து கொள்ளாமல் சாத்திரங்களை வகுத்தன. அது ஒரு இடர்பாடு. இப்போ இந்த திருக்கூத்து என்பதுக்கு பல்வேறு விதமான பொருள் உண்டு. நடனத்தினுடைய ஊற்றங்கால் ஜெயச்சந்திரனிடம் இருந்ததினால அந்த நடன நோக்கில் இந்த கூத்தை தத்துவார்த்தமாக எப்படி காட்ட முடியும்னு முயன்றிருக்கிறார். இந்த திருமந்திரத்தை படித்து அதனுடைய பொருளை ஆழங்கால் பட்ட நிலையில் விளக்க வேண்டும்னா மன்னிக்க வேண்டும், இந்த கருத்தினுக்கு தொல் தமிழ் இலக்கணத்தை அதனுடைய மரபியல் நோக்கில் கற்றிருக்க வேண்டும். இப்போ உதாரணம், வேதங்களாட ஆகமங்களாட. இந்த வேதங்கள்ன்ற சொல்லுக்கே வேன்ற சொல்லு தான் வேர்ச்சொல். வே என்றால் மறைவுன்னு அர்த்தம். அதனால தான் வேர் அப்படின்னா மண்ணுக்குள்ள மறைஞ்சிருக்கு. ஒன்றை காப்பாற்றுவதற்காக மறைப்பு கட்டுவதற்கு பேர் வேலி. அதே போல வேதம் என்றால் ஒன்றை மறைத்து சொல்லுதல். அதே போல நமக்கெல்லாம் தடுமல் பிடித்தால் நீராவியில் மருந்து இட்டு அந்த ஸ்ட்ரீமை பிடிக்கிறோம் இல்லையா, அதுக்கு பேர் மறைந்து அந்த நீராவியை பிடித்ததுனால வேது பிடித்தல். அங்கேயும் மறைபொருள் தான். ஆகவே இந்த வேதங்கள் ஆடன்னா எது இந்நாள் வரை மறைபொருளாக இருந்ததோ அது நம்முள் தோன்றுகிறது. அதனால் ஏற்படக்கூடிய ஆனந்தம் ஆட்டம், அவ்வளவுதான். அதே போல் ஆகமங்கள் ஆடனாக்க ஆ என்பது உயிர். கமம்ன்ற சொல்லுக்கு பொருள் என்னன்னாக்க தொல்காப்பிய உரியல்ல, கமம் என்பது நிறைவது ஆகும். கம்ப்ளீட்னஸ். ஒரு உயிரினுடைய முழுமை கிடைத்து விடுகிறது. மறைபொருள் எப்பொழுது நீங்கள் உணர்கிறீர்களோ அந்த மறைபொருளை உள்ளார்ந்த நிலையில் உணர்ந்த பின் உயிர் தன்னுடைய பர்பஸை புரிஞ்சுக்கிறது. கமம் ஆட அந்த உயிரானது நிறைவை நோக்கி ஆடுகிறது. அதனால இந்த ஒவ்வொரு சொல்லுக்கும் மறைபொருள்கள் இருக்கின்றன. அதற்கு தொல் தமிழ் இலக்கண நூலை சான்றாக எடுத்துக்கொண்டோம் என்றால் திருமந்திரத்தை இன்றைக்கு வாழ்வியல் முறையோடு ஒப்பிட முடியும். அது ஏதோ தள்ளி வைக்கப்பட்ட ஒரு நூல் அல்ல. அது நம் அன்றாட வாழ்க்கையில் தினம் தினம் பயன்படுத்தப்படக்கூடிய செய்திகளினது தொகுப்பு. அது ஒவ்வொரு பாட்டினுக்கும் 3 நிலைகளில் விளக்கம் உண்டு. அதனுடைய உள்ளார்ந்த விளக்கம், அதன் மேலாக எழுந்த தத்துவம், இவைகள் இரண்டையும் இணைக்கக்கூடிய நடைமுறை வாழ்க்கை. இவைகள் தான் திருமந்திரத்தில். அதில் ஒரு துளியை எடுத்து இவ்வளவு விரிவாக பேச முடிஞ்சிருக்கு. அவ்வளவுதான். ஒரு துளியை எடுத்து அந்த பொற்பதி கூத்தாக இருக்கக்கூடிய ஆடவல்லானினது ஆடலை ஒரு துளியாக பகுக்க முடிஞ்சிருக்கு. இதனுடைய பகுப்பை மேலும் பார்த்து கொண்டே போனீர்கள் என்றால் அது முடிவு இல்லாத முடிவு. அது ஆனந்தம். அதனை முயன்று இருக்கிறார் ஜேசி அவர்கள். எங்களுக்கு ஜேசின்னு தான் பழக்கம், அதனால் அந்த மரபுக்கே வந்து விடுகிறேன். மிக அழகானதோர் உரை, நல்ல முறையில் சுதர்ஷியினுடைய அபிநயம், இவர்களுடைய அழகான குரல் வளம் எல்லாம் சேர்ந்து இந்த 2 மணி நேரம்ன்றது நாம் எங்கு இருந்தோம்னே தெரியாத அளவினுக்கு அந்த கூத்த வல்லானினுடைய சபையில் போய் நின்றோம். அம்பரம்ன்ற சொல் கூட மறைபொருள் தான். அம்பரம்ன்ற சொல்லுக்கே வந்து சித் அம்பரம். அது ஞானமே ஆடையாக மூடி விடுகிறது. அம்பரம்ன்ற சொல்லுக்கு ஆடைன்னு ஒரு பொருள், குவியம்னு ஒரு பொருள். எங்கு உங்களினுடைய புலன்கள் யாவும் குவிகிறதோ அதுவே அங்கு ஆடையாக மாறிவிடுகிறது. இதை தான் ஜைன தத்துவத்தில் கேவல் ஞான்னு சொல்லுகிறார்கள், பௌத்த தத்துவத்தில் நிர்வாணம்னு பேசுகிறார்கள். அதுவே திக்கம்பரம். அந்த நிலைக்கு தள்ளிவிடுகிறது நம்மை. இந்த முயற்சி இன்னமும் தொடரணும். ஜேசி இது போன்றதார்ந்த அறிவார்ந்த செய்திகளை பல இடங்களுக்கு கொண்டு சேர்க்கணும். அதற்கு இறை அருளும் குரு அருளும் துணை நிற்க வேண்டும். நன்றி. எனக்கு இது ஒரு நல்ல வாய்ப்பு. வணக்கம்.